Welcome to this explainer. We are jumping right into a profoundly moving framework today, one that completely redefines how we understand trauma, time, and human resilience. We're going to be unpacking a deeply impactful text that introduces something called empowinto theory. It's a way of looking at the world that comes from a place of immense historical weight, but also incredible geographical beauty.
So think about this question for a second. What does it actually mean to build a theory of life from a place of ubiquitous death? It really sets the stage for our entire journey into a landscape that's marked by profound hardship, yet is somehow just bursting with defiant life. How do people not just survive, but actively forge vibrant, meaningful existences in a space where death feels like a constant neighbor? That central tension is exactly what drives the analysis we're about to dive into.
We're pulling our insights from Hugo Kakanam's academic but deeply personal book, Riotous Deathscapes. The text examines the Mpondo people of South Africa's rural Eastern Cape, specifically focusing on the region of Mpondoland. And what makes this text so captivating is that it doesn't just theorize from a comfy office somewhere. It theorizes right from the soil, the rivers, and the actual lived experiences of the people who call this rugged landscape home.
To really ground us, Kanam starts not with some abstract high-level theory, but with the visceral reality of his own aging mother. He describes this harrowing incident where she fractured her spine, falling on a crumbling, muddy bridge during a flood. He literally had to breathe air into her lungs as she went into shock. This poignant physical reality anchors the book's entire framework. Theory here isn't just an academic exercise, It's born from the mud, the rain, and the fragile bodies of people living through repeated catastrophes.
And that physical vulnerability, it directly mirrors a stark socioeconomic reality. We're talking about a region where, according to municipal data cited in the text, around 70% of the population is unemployed. To put that into perspective, only 1.4% have post-school education, and having piped water inside your actual dwelling is a reality for just 1% of the people there. It's a place of severe structural hardship.
Kanam frames this region as a place suffering from economics of abandonment. This is a concept he uses to describe the ongoing, systemic impacts of neoliberalism, racial capitalism, and historical neglect. Essentially, the author is illustrating how the state and the global economy have effectively turned away from this region, treating it as a labor reserve, where people are basically left to fend for themselves amid crumbling infrastructure.
Let's look at the first crucial piece of this puzzle, a specific lens called ukwakumkanya. You know when you lift your hand to your forehead to block the sun's glare? That physical gesture is ukwakumkanya. But the crucial point here is that it's way more than just a physical reflex. It's a deep ancestral way of attending to the world. You are creating shade in order to illuminate what is right in front of you. Kanseham uses this as a foundational method for the book, blocking out the intense glare of colonial and capitalist narratives so we can really focus our gaze on Black indigenous life. But it goes beyond just vision. It completely displaces the Western obsession with purely visual observation. It invites a multi-sensorial experience. With ukwakumkanya, one can literally smell a storm approaching, or physically feel the weight of history and ancestors. It's about listening to the complex, polyphonic music of the Mpondo, or just pausing to sense the world through your entire body. It's a completely holistic way of gathering knowledge.
Now, keeping that unique lens in mind, let's shift gears to look at multitudinous timescapes.
Mpondo theory flat-out rejects rigid, straightforward timelines. Instead, it embraces something called epiphenomenal temporality. Think of it like a cylindrical timescape where the past, present, and future are all happening at once and coexisting productively. In this framework, ancestors aren't gone or relegated to some distant past. They're active, embedded agents living dynamically right alongside the present generation.
Notice how starkly this contrasts with what we might call linear, progressive colonial time. Modern time is always focused on moving forward, right? Prioritizing labor and production. Mpondo time, however, is fluid. It's deeply rooted in the land, the rivers, and shared memory. The text argues that if you accept linear time, you accept a narrative that automatically leaves marginalized people behind. Mpondo time insists that the history of the land and its people is always unfolding, right now. Because the past is always present, historical and modern traumas tend to stack up on top of one another. The author compares the breathless panic experienced by the Mpondo, like his mother whose jaws lock in terror at sudden noises, to the Rwandan concept of ihamuka, which literally means without lungs. It's the physical manifestation of deep, sedimented trauma, where the body is constantly reliving both historical violence and present-day crises all at once. Which brings us to how this shapes who the people actually are, diving into boundless blackness and indigeneity.
The author argues that Mpondo identity simply cannot be boxed into neat Western categories. It's absolutely boundless. It incorporates the realities of physical debilitation, historical migrations, and indigenous knowledge. Canham even describes it as a queerly African way of existing. And by queer, he doesn't just mean sexual orientation. He means failing to be a self-contained, quote-unquote, proper modern subject. It's an identity that refuses to conform to rigid rules, fully embracing a fluid relationship with the world.
Think of it like a river confluence. Mpondo sociality is a massive merging of forces. Over centuries, they've absorbed shipwrecked castaways, neighboring groups fleeing violence, and endless colonial incursions. Their identity is oceanic. It's always moving, adapting, and surviving the wreckage while maintaining incredibly deep connections to the earth and to each other.
All right, let's pull all these threads together into our final core concept: living in riotous deathscapes.
Canham introduces this incredibly heavy concept of deathscapes. Because of extreme medical neglect, the text shares a heartbreaking story of the author's own brother suffering an amputation simply because a rural hospital lacked basic supplies to treat gangrene. Death is a ubiquitous neighbor. The very hills and valleys become deathscapes. But it's not just physical graves. It's the psychological reality of the dead hovering among the living, constantly present in the landscape.
But wait, here is an absolutely crucial takeaway. The Mpondo people do not surrender to victimhood. Despite enduring systemic neglect and rampant, preventable dying, they practice what is called survivance. They hold two truths at once. Alongside the profound grief, they find explosive, guttural laughter. They find deep joy. They practice a defiant livingness right there amidst the graves.
And that is exactly where the word riotous comes in. Canham describes their existence as a riotous deathscape. Riotous signifies a leap through the breach. It's an act of loud, unapologetic self-affirmation. By singing, dreaming, and fiercely maintaining their communal ties, the refusal to just quietly fade away is framed as a beautiful, powerful form of resistance against a world that has historically tried to erase them entirely.
So I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. If we take Mpondo theory seriously, if time is truly cylindrical and joy genuinely thrives in the graveyard, then our strict Western boundaries between life and death completely dissolve. As we've seen even out in the margins of abandonment, there are incredibly rich, complex, and beautiful ways to truly exist. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey today.